I just wanted to read something just real quick. If you think that you've had a bad day, listen to this. Winston Churchill was once asked, "Doesn't it thrill you to know that every time you make a speech, the hall is packed to overflowing?" "It's quite flattering," replied Sir Winston. "But whenever I feel that way, just to be humble, I always remember that instead of making a political speech, that if I was being hanged, there'd be twice the crowd." Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for these folks that represent us tonight. I pray, Heavenly Father, that they'll feel your presence, know your love. We love them, everybody. We really do. Being in leadership is very difficult, and they get all sorts of comments that are not necessarily pleasing to the ear. But we care for them, and we pray again that you'll just honor them and bless them, protect them, and give them the wisdom tonight to carry about the business you've assigned to them. Thank you for Hillsdale. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Call this meeting to order. Those in attendance, please rise.
Will now be recorded.
Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues in joining us for this regularly scheduled August 17th, 2020 City Council meeting. As you come in, there'll be a sign-in sheet on the desk over there. Please sign your name if you're in attendance tonight. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Bell.
Here.
Briner.
Here.
Veer. Morrissey.
Here.
Sharp.
Here.
Stuccio.
Here.
Pratt. Sizer.
Here.
Mayor Stockford.
Here.
We have 7 present.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into approval of agenda. Does the city manager or any council members have any changes to make to the agenda? Mr. Mackey?
Mayor, I would like to add, under old business, a right-of-way plantings update.
Alrighty. Entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add old business item D, right-of-way plannings update.
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Zizer, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to amend the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Bell to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We've got an agenda. We'll move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And please make sure that if you're commenting on anything during this particular public comment section, that it has a direct tie to something present on the agenda tonight. Podium's now open. Seeing no public comment, we'll close the podium and we'll move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city claims July 23rd, VPU claims July 23rd, payroll July 23rd. City council minutes of August 3rd, cemetery minutes of August 12th, noise variance for Hillsdale College for their welcome party, street closure for Hillsdale College for their homecoming activities, another noise variance for Hillsdale College for their homecoming activities, the American Legion's 5K Heroes Run is on here, Board of Public Utilities, AMI, water meter node replacement, and another replacement for the Board of Public Utilities for their PLC at the water treatment plant. Is there any discussion on any items on the consent agenda? Councilman Sharp.
Did they or did they not cancel the football season at Hillsdale College? Is that correct?
Yes.
I haven't heard yet.
Canceled.
Okay. Well, I mean, you still gonna have homecoming. It's just gonna be a little stranger not having the football to entertain the people.
Probably.
Okay, that's the only question I had because it's usually always geared around the football game's the main centerpiece and everything else follows that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I had on that.
I do know if it was canceled, it would have been the GMAC, the entire conference that canceled, not
Right.
Hillsdale. But yeah.
Right. I was just curious on that.
Whole conference postponed till spring.
Sad.
Sad, yes. Any more discussion on any items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Bell to approve the consent agenda. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Briner,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Bell.
Yes.
7-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move into communications petitions. Communications petitions, the first item, item A, is our certificate of completion from Michigan for the Community Development Block Grant Program. And I would encourage you guys all to read this. It's a nice letter. As soon as I get to it here, I believe it was from MEDC. Item B, 2020 census door-to-door visits. And item C was MML annual meeting. Is there any discussion about any items in communications petitions? Seeing none, we'll move on in the podium, in the agenda. We've got no introduction, adoption of ordinances, public hearing. So we'll move into old business. Item A, Dawn Theater verbal update. And is that going to be you, Dave?
I believe so, because I don't see anyone else online.
All right.
It is now.
That being said, just wanted to give everyone an update that construction is moving along very well. Particularly, you can't really see it from the outside, but the inside, they've completely gutted the facility down to the trusses, and they've set up all the scaffolding to work on the trusses and the ceiling. And then they will be starting, and it looks like Alan has joined us, so when he can add to this, but it looks like they'll be starting the roof here pretty soon, and additionally working on the inside. Alan, are you online?
Yeah, sorry about that.
So
So they have the trusses exposed, and we discovered that some of them are a little worse than we thought. So the structural engineer will be coming next Tuesday, and after that, after his evaluation, then Matt will have a better idea of when he will actually be taking off the roof structure and replacing. We just don't want to replace something and then have a truss fail because we didn't fix it correctly. So, but the rest of the demo inside is done. They're already working on repairing structure in the basement. They have the new stairway to the basement almost built, and they've got the framing, the new framing on the stage, which had failed on the north side, almost completed, and everything's actually moving right along. The truss issue was something that we were expecting. It was a little worse than we anticipated, but we're confident that it really won't slow down the schedule at all.
Any questions for Alan? Thanks, Alan. Anything to add to that, Dave?
nope.
Alrighty. All that being said, we'll move into item B in old business, Fayette Street project update. Jake?
Yeah, so I'll just remind folks of a couple of things on this. First thing being, we do have some grant money here through the federal, small urban aid grant, which is federal funds. So that has to be processed and administered through the state. And I'll remind you also that the winning bidder was Hoffman Brothers, and they're preparing as much as they can, but in lieu of the final documents coming from the state. They're not, placing orders for materials or anything, but they are still anticipating completing at least the road work yet this fall, provided that documentation comes through the state soon. Typically, it takes about 6 weeks, and the end of this current week will put us at 6 weeks. So we're hoping that we'll have a contractor kick off late this week or early next week.
Hey, Jake. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Jake, this is Matt Bell. Have we asked our representatives for help on this? I'm really worried about being caught in the winter with the dirt Fayette Road.
So a couple of things. We actually wrote a the other thing, like I said, is it's typically a 6-week process to get through the state paperwork, and that 6 weeks will be the end of this week. So we're anticipating everything being kicked off the end of this week. That's the hope. What we don't know is with state workers having furloughs and COVID, that sort of thing, we're hoping that that doesn't affect this timing.
Wow. What's the ramifications if so it's in the contract, it says they can't leave a dirt road. What happens if they do? What's our clawback on that?
There are liquidated damages that we can put in play. I think, don't quote me, but I think they're like $1,000 a day. I don't know exactly how those would come into play, but because of the clause we had written into the contract, I would expect them to be very, very careful that they don't peel back too much road that they can't replace. Quite frankly, our fallback plan would be to just peel up enough road to get the box culvert replaced over the river, set that back in place, and then just pave that short distance over the box. My understanding is that's according to city engineer Bauer and the contractor, that's kind of their secondary fallback. But at this point, we're going to try to proceed with best case scenario and adjust accordingly. Again, we having been through the ice grant, do not want any streets open as millings or dirt or base for the winter, which is why we included that, to make sure that does not happen.
Thank you, Jake.
I think we learned from the nightmare called Ripon. That,
Yes.
and this is the different group doing it, not the previous one we've had. So I have more faith in it, and it's good you guys put that in the contract to give us a base to fall back on. Because hopefully it won't happen. I'm sure they're smart enough to know it won't. But I don't want to put those people through the nightmare that the people on Ripon went through. Thank you, Jake.
Agreed, thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
Just for council and the public, we will keep this item on old business and update the council periodically. So I anticipate having it on the next meeting, and with the hopes of that we've got the MDOT contracts on there on the next agenda as well. So we'll keep this on there so council and the public are fully aware of progress.
Just something to remind Mr. Zeiser, that's half our ward too. So we're going through this nightmare again, hopefully
We always
not.
get the good ones.
Yes, we do.
All right. Any more discussion, questions for Jake? Thank you, Jake. We'll move on to the old business to item C, 6569 Westwood Street Properties verbal update. And is that you or Alan? Go ahead, Alan.
So there really isn't much to update there. As you know, the resolution to declare 69 Westwood a public nuisance was passed on July 6th, giving him 60 days, giving the owner 60 days to abate or demolish. So he has until September 6th to complete that work. So basically, he has until Labor Day. So once once the deadline has passed, then council can decide if they want to take further action, and then if council does decide, if we reach the point where he's done nothing, then we can look at possibly demolishing both structures at the same time.
Any questions for Alan? Thanks for the update, Alan.
You're welcome.
All right. If there's no more discussion on those items, we will move into old business item D, which is public right-of-way plannings. I see. Is Kristen the city of Hillsdale, or is she not with us tonight?
She is not with us tonight, but I will speak on this, Mayor.
Okay.
So, based on our previous discussion at council, this particular item was sent back to the Public Service Committee for further discussion and a decision on the direction. The Public Service Committee did have a meeting. Greg, Bill, and Matt were all three there. And we had further discussion on the topic. Basically, coming out of the meeting, it was determined not to change the ordinance because that was passed back in March of 2016. But I was asked to provide a policy clarification for the DPS as well as other city departments and the public to go from in requesting right-of-way planting options. And then the policy here in front of you, which we will attach to the agenda, is basically the policy that the city engineer and I put together with consultation with DPS and other city departments. Basically, if someone wants to plant in their right-of-way, they do need to obtain a permit, and that's been the process since before 2016. We will allow items as long as they do not exceed 24 inches. And there are some additional things. And why, just to give an example, why some of these things are not allowed. If council recalls, we as a city have to, and this is a statewide mandate from the state, that we have to check every service line, water service line going into every residence for what they're made of, looking for lead lines and replace them into the house if we identify a lead service line. So we will be actually in citywide be excavating or potholing is what they call it, the front of everyone's property to determine what this line is. So if there are things that are planted or mulch or other things, we could potentially be messing that up. This also makes it known to the public that when we have to work in the public right away, we're only going to be replacing it back to sod and grass. So that being said, this is the policy that the city engineer and I came up with to kind of give residents and the city staff direction on how to proceed with right-of-way plantings.
Okay, any questions? Councilman Bell?
I just had the one question because I overheard it and I thought about it during before. I know this is an internal city policy, so it's not a new law or something. The reason we did this is because the law says that you have to obtain a permit, but the city policy before this all happened was that we would grant no permits for plants. So now we're easing that a little bit in case people do want to, or obviously the people who have them right now are grandfathered under this policy. But the number 4, I was just looking at, I know I like to read this stuff in my spare time, under section 36-149 of our code, it says that site plans have to have, and maybe Will could check me on this, but site plans that go before the planning commission have to include reasonable and regular irrigation. And so I didn't know if a strip, let's say like the college did a new parking lot or something and they had a grass strip on the side, does that have to be irrigated? And if so, does that fall outside of this? I don't know. I think you mentioned the Taco Bell, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just not sure if that crosses with that requirement.
And I believe how we'll administer this is we'll be reasonable about it. But Alan, do you have anything that you can add in regard to irrigation? I know Jake's on the line as well.
I get the problem that it presents. I'm just talking about what's in our, yeah. Sorry, Alan, go ahead.
Well, work in the right of way, no matter what it is supposed to be done only with permit. And although irrigation has been installed in some very limited situations, it does pose some problem to utility workers who may have to do work in the middle of the night where nobody is available to shut off the irrigation water line and could essentially puncture a line and have water running when they are working on a utility, especially electric. It could pose quite the problem. So essentially, we try not to allow it. I guess Jake should rule in on this as well.
Yes, as a rule, we do not allow irrigation in the right-of-way strip. For that exact reason, Alan, you are correct. Very dangerous if you're working on live electricity, any underground live electricity. The other issue is most of the time it gets hit and we don't even know. They're typically small black plastic lines. And the other reason we don't allow that is to follow suit and have the same set of rules everywhere within the city, because MDOT also does not allow irrigation in the right of way. In fact, the new Taco Bell will be removing the irrigation between the bike path and the curb, because MDOT will not finalize their right of way permit without removing that first. They did ask permission to leave it in for 2 weeks to establish the sod. But again, they cannot have a final right-of-way permit, which I believe will hold up their occupancy permit also, because of that irrigation that was placed in the right-of-way that was not permitted.
Okay, thanks. Once again, I get the problem of it. I just think that our current code requires people to have irrigation. It says all areas shall be landscaped and shall meet the following standards. Section 7.
Alan, that reference, excuse me, if I may, I believe that's in reference to site plans that go through planning approval.
Yes.
Terrace permits and plannings on terraces will not go through the planning committee. So I have a feeling that's more of the private property side. Would that be true, Alan?
Yeah, that's true. And you can maintain and keep things watered without having in-ground irrigation. So even if that were the case and extended into the right of way, you could it may be more difficult and inconvenient, but it can be done without having in-ground irrigation.
From my understanding, the issue with the Taco Bell was that they had just paid to have the irrigation done, and then the city inspector came along and told them that they needed to remove it. What he was hoping was that he could sign some sort of a waiver to hold us harmless, in the case that the irrigation was to be damaged if any street work needed to be done. But it sounds like there was maybe a miscommunication that the issue's a state issue and not a city issue. Is that right?
That's 100% correct, Mayor.
Okay.
We do, myself and my staff, we do inspect right-of-ways for MDOT. But I don't approve them. In fact, this whole issue, I had to tell them that I could not approve their permit. So what I do is I approve the permit to the state, and then the state ultimately approves it. But the first question he asked me was, is there irrigation in the right-of-way? And I said yes, and he said then don't approve it until they remove it. So it's not my decision. It truly came from MDOT and their right-of-way division, their permits engineer, because they, across the board, do not allow it, because anything you hit while working in the right-of-way, you're on the hook for repairs. So if you work on a water main, you hit a gas main, the water guys have to pay to have the gas main fixed, or vice versa. The same applies for irrigation. So again, they don't allow it anywhere in the right-of-ways. We followed suit, so we don't have two sets of rules in town. And that's just, I guess, what we do and how we do it, and that's why. It's really not up to us. I can't approve that permit. I don't have the authority to approve the permit anyway. The state does.
But Jake, you were the one speaking on behalf of MDOT to the citizen, right?
That is correct. I am the middleman on it. So we found those couple deficiencies on the project. There's some ADA issues with concrete finishes and also the irrigation in the right-of-way. The original plans did not show irrigation in the right-of-way, because if they would have, the state would have nixed them out, or they would not have approved the plans until they removed it. So I'm just being instructed by until they remove that irrigation.
Thanks.
Councilman Stuchel?
Just one question for city manager, maybe Jake. I'm just curious, if we have to, and if we do, how is this enforced?
Well, this will be enforced by DPS and code enforcement and ultimately the police department if it has to go to that stage. We're hoping with this clarification it will not.
Okay.
Previously, we didn't bullet point out what the residents need to.
I guess my only concern is we have a handful of these right now, and we're opening it up to hundreds.
We are opening it up, but I think, I don't know that we'll get a whole bunch
Okay.
coming forward because of the requirements of being in the right of way. And the
Okay.
fact that, we will be coming in and doing all the residents in town, potholing them, so that will, could potentially mess up their plantings as well as, if they don't maintain them.
Okay. If it's too high, too close, we just take it out.
Yeah.
Is that at our expense or the property owner's expense?
It's at the property owner's expense. We will try to work with folks,
Yeah.
but ultimately, if they don't abide by the regulations, we'll
Okay,
take them out.
thank you.
Any more questions?
Cost per permit, there's no cost, correct?
Jake, is there a cost for the permit?
All permits have a $10 application fee, that's it. For the right-of-way planning of it all, it would be the $10 right-of-way permit, which basically would be covering probably just a few minutes of Gary's time to actually review the species to make sure that they are mature height of less than 24 inches. We'll probably lose, no doubt about it, we'll lose money on every one of them, but at $10, that doesn't cover anything, but at least, what it really does is make sure people don't submit a lot of permits that they don't intend on following through with, so to speak. It's not a lot of money, but people get $10 out when they're serious. They'll keep their $10 if they're not serious. So that's kind of my take on it.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? So if this is just a guidance for property owners, we wouldn't even vote on anything, would we?
That's correct.
Okie dokie. If there's no more discussion, we'll move on in the agenda to new business. Okay, we'll move into new business. Item A, Title VI, Non-Discrimination Plan Update. Oh boy,
Yeah, long-winded.
yeah,
And I'll-
45 pages.
And I'll
So-
take that. We went back and, based on the last discussion, and I wasn't familiar enough with the update to answer the question, so recommended we pull it out of the consent agenda. So this time we put it on new business just to make sure that we reviewed it properly. This Title VI non-discrimination plan has been in place by the city for many years. The only changes, I think the summary kind of highlights them, is Kay Freeze is no longer our representative. Laura Sargent is, so it replaces Kay with Laura, and then also updates our organizational chart. And those are the only two changes in the plan from its current existence.
Okay, why'd the organizational chart need updated?
One of the things that's in there is our safety personnel, our coordinator, that was a new position, as well as some other updates. And that is it, Mayor.
Any questions? Comments?
I guess I have one. I'm just sick of this stuff, so I know it's requirement, whatever, but I mean, this basically makes all the city employees have to keep in mind 10,000 more things while they do their job, which, you know, hard enough to remember the 10,000 other things before they do it. So, yeah, I think I'll go out with a bang on this one. Vote no. I probably voted yes on it before.
I think it was passed before you were on council. Mr.
All right, so my first no. This is great. Staying consistent here.
At least I believe so.
Not because of the changes. The changes are fine, of course. Thanks for
more?
letting me bloviate.
Yeah, this is silly.
You guys realize none of us can hear what you're saying.
This is silly.
Bruce isn't listening anyway.
No,
so.
I'm saying you're not missing anything at this point.
Bunch of gobbledygook.
Touche.
Bunch of legal gobbledygook. Any more questions, comments? Entertain a motion to approve the changes in the Title VI non-discrimination plan.
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Stuchel, seconded by Councilman Sharp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Nay.
May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Morrissey? Sharp?
Yes.
Stuchel?
Yes.
Sizer?
Yes.
Mayor Stockford?
No.
Councilperson Bell?
No.
And Briner?
Yes.
Passes 5-2.
Thanks, Katie. Okay, we'll move into miscellaneous reports. We've got no proclamations tonight. We've got one appointment to the Airport Advisory Committee, and that is Mr. Hamilton. His application is not present in the agenda because I lost it. So, but Mr. Hamilton happens to be with us tonight, so I'm sure he's happy to answer any questions if any of council members have any. But I highly suggest appointing Mr. Hamilton to the Airport Advisory Committee. Any questions,
Well,
Councilman
I
Stuchel?
don't know Mr. Hamilton, so why do you want to be on the committee?
Sorry, can you restate, please?
Why do you want to be on the committee?
Well, I care very deeply about Hillsdale. I moved here in 2007 and hope to be more active in the community than I've been able to be. I've been embedded with troops overseas. And so the airport is a point of great interest. I've served on 2 aircraft naval air stations and an aircraft carrier. So I've been involved in aviation for a long, long time. I spent 2 courses in ground school. So I'm familiar with the equipment and the activities that are going on out there. And as a matter of fact, I think that our airport can be more advantageous to the community. I think I bring some perspectives from not just my Navy background, but my having traveled quite a bit, and I think I can help with what's been a well-managed airport, but we can do even more. For instance, the American Legion is bringing a flagpole out there by the end of the fall anyway, and I think there's more things that we can do to put that airport on the map. So I'm interested in taking part.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Bell, seconded by Councilman Briner to appoint Mr. David Hamilton to the Airport Advisory Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Welcome to the Airport Committee, Mr. Hamilton.
They meet quarterly, maybe. That's
Bruce, you're still the council liaison, correct?
I'm the one that shows up. Last one we did virtual, or we didn't even meet, I don't think. We did. I was working that Saturday, yep. So. When we do meet, it's interesting. That airport has come a long ways in the past few years. I mean, just the direction, the leadership, when we changed a couple managers ago, put us in the right direction, and love to see it keep going. And I think you'll be a good addition, even though there's not an aircraft carrier out there. It's still an airport, and it's got a lot of potential, and it's going to keep growing. And welcome.
Any more
Nope.
questions, comments? Alrighty. Well, let's move into second general public comment section. During this time, the podium will once again be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to one to the podium. And at this time, you may speak on anything you like. Podium's now open.
Just had a question, since we're a business in the church on Fayette and West. It's been my understanding in some cities that whenever there's a project like that, they usually have a meeting with the residents and they inform them what's going on, the plan, how it might affect the businesses. Has any of that been done? And then number two, would the person that's in charge of that, if it hasn't been done, would they let us know at least how it might affect the church and the road out there? We appreciate that.
Thank you, Pastor. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the podium and move into city manager's report. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess first thing I'll do is answer Pastor Prince's question in regards to Fayette. Once we know more from the state in regards to the contract, it is our intention with the project and projects moving forward to have a public meeting and invite those particularly on that route and kind of the offshoots of the streets being worked on. So that will be coming up. And we'll make sure to get you an invitation. Just a couple brief things. Katie asked me to mention the voter, in regards to the voter turnout on the election that just passed. We had about a 32% vote, which was actually up from the previous August election of about 22%. So we had about 10% more residents voting in the primary election than we did in the 18 election. And also the AV ballots in August of 18, we sent out or received 413, and in this August election it was 791, so almost doubled. So to Katie and the election staff working on that, I just want to give a thank you for stepping up and doing more with a very small budget in regards to processing resident votes. So that, and then lastly, I just want to make the council and the public aware that the library is now back open from 11 to 5, and then from 12 to 6 p.m., 11 to 5 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do still have to limit the number of folks that are in the library. So if you knock on the door, they will come let you in, barring we're not at the limit that we're that you can't come in, or if you call, you can schedule a time to come in to use the computers and or check out books. So that being said, that is what I had to report. If there are any questions by council, I'll be happy to answer them.
Just one, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Stuchel?
Do you happen to know what the county turnout was?
Katie, do you know?
About the same. Was it an increase as well? Was it an increase as well?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Any more questions for Dave? Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
All right, we will move into council comment. Anybody have anything interesting? Councilman Morrissey?
Yeah, on this Fayette Street project, I did ask about that at a previous meeting. Initially, the city engineer was thinking of no meeting, but having some sort of door hangers or whatever. And I'm glad to see that we're going to have a meeting now. And I'm thinking that possibly we could do it at your church. Because it's right there in the neighborhood. It would be the most convenient place for people to meet if that's possible.
You're certainly welcome anytime.
Yeah. And if we could just notice the people, as I mentioned the previous time, not just along the street there, but also the people who live on West Street and in the area, so that because they're all using that road, and they need to be kept informed. That would really be good.
Good stuff, Councilman Morrissey. Councilman Briner?
Yeah, just to add on to that, any residents that'll be affected as far as detours, you know, if they're going down west or any of those other streets where they may see an increase in traffic, it might be good to invite them. And then also, leaves are starting to come off the trees. And I'm not gonna bang the drum on you should do this or do that. I just think we need to inform as much as possible when the dates are to pick up leaves. I know we sent flyers out in the BPU bills on the city newsletter, but maybe also update the city webpage underneath the public services and just update that for the fall collection times. And I believe that's all that I have.
Thanks, Councilman Briner.
In a Facebook page. Shoot something out on Facebook. These are the dates that they're gonna pick up.
Absolutely. Can we really hammer that this year, KD, on Facebook? Awesome. Any more council comments?
Just again on Fayette, that we have 4 council members who should be invited to the meeting.
I'm a pro at those meetings.
I know you are. That's why we want you there.
Mayor, if I may, we
Yeah.
will make sure that the letter Councilman Morrissey is included in the packet prior to the meeting, so that anyone who wants to attend, including council, are aware of it.
Great, thank you.
Any more council comment? Councilman Stuchel, could you please thank your wife and daughters for coming down Manning and West and painting the
Oh.
bridges down there?
Sure will.
Please send them a thank you for me.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Looks heck of a lot nicer, so.
And thanks to Jake for giving us a little bit of material to fix some of those barriers. So,
Thank you, Jake. Any more council comment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Bell, seconded by Councilman Sharp to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting's adjourned.